This trip is brought to you by good friends at Coinkite. Coinkite's here. They build the best Bitcoin hardware in the space. I'm rubbing my block clock right now. Have you ever rubbed your block clock, Logan?
No, I'm not weird.
Yeah, it doesn't feel great. It's not a rubbing product. It's a looking product. You look at it, it gives you great stats on the Bitcoin network. You set it up. It's a beautiful, aesthetically pleasing piece of hardware. It keeps you updated on what's going on in Bitcoin. That's just one thing. That's just like the fun things that Coinkite makes. They're very fun. They're very cool. They also make the best security hardware in the Bitcoin space. Their wallets, the MK4 and the Q1, both come with two secure elements. Both are NFC enabled. Both allow you to create private public key pairs offline in an air-gapped fashion, so your private keys never touch the internet. You can add entropy to your private key with dice rolls as well with both products. A bit different. MK4 looks like a little calculator. The Q1 is a full keyboard device with a bigger screen, QR scanning capabilities, and it has a battery pack as well. Again, the most secure hardware on the market. Allows you to create your private public keys in an air-gapped fashion. It's the best way to do it. Adding entropy to it as well. Eliminate single points of failure. Cold Card helps you do that with their hardware by keeping your stuff offline. They also have the Sats card, the Tap Signer, the Sats chip, a bunch of things. Go check it out at coinkite.com. Try RHR. Just try it. Tell me what happens. Nobody's told us, Logan. Have you tried it?
I have not. Have you tried it?
I have not. Maybe it's on me. Maybe I should go try it. This trip is also brought to you by our good friends at Unchained. We talk about them in this episode. They're doing it the right way. They're a financial institution of the future, building their whole company off of Bitcoin's native multi-sig properties. They have their Vault product, which is a 2 or 3 multi-sig in which you hold 2 keys. Unchained holds 1. Since you have those 2 keys, you control your Bitcoin. You can move it whenever you see fit. If you're ever in a pinch and need Unchained to be the second in the 2 or 3 multi-sig quorum, the second signature, they're there for you. They have the trading desk, where if you buy Bitcoin through their trading desk, it goes straight to that vault that you set up. So there's no pulling out keys, wallets, addresses. You buy Bitcoin, it goes straight to your multi-sig cold storage vault. Single points of failure are eliminated in that model. Unchained never holds the Bitcoin. You don't buy it on Unchained, it sits on exchange. No, you buy it, goes straight to your multi-sig cold storage. Whether you're an individual, high net worth individual, a family office, an institution, a sovereign wealth fund looking to buy Bitcoin, hit up Unchained's trading desk. Go to unchained.com/trading to check it out and enjoy this rip of Rabbit Hole Recap. Okay.
You've had a dynamic where money's become freer than free.
If you talk about a Fed just gone nuts, all the central banks going nuts.
So it's all acting like safe haven.
I believe that in a world where central bankers are tripping over themselves to devalue their currency, Bitcoin wins. In the world of fiat currencies, Bitcoin is the victor.
I mean, that's part of the bull case for Bitcoin.
If you're not paying attention, you probably should be.
Did you see that picture of Mashinsky today?
That was AI generated. I can't believe you fell for it.
I thought it was,
That was
too.
definitely
It looked like he spent 5 years in prison already.
I thought it was a Midjourney. I use Midjourney. I heard you saying that you do. Like, that looked like a Midjourney to me.
Yeah. Because he was already in court. They didn't take him right to court.
Yeah, I don't know. Did they? Sometimes they do. Like, they arrest him and arraign him like the same day. No?
Right into the jumpsuit.
That's true. All right, that's fair. That's totally fair. You're right. Why is he wearing orange? He wouldn't be wearing orange.
Yeah. We're wearing blue pajamas. We're going to change those to orange pajamas.
Fuck, I'm going to get rugged by AI images a lot, aren't I, in life?
Oh, yeah, it's already happening.
I mean, it happened with that. I sent that to
Well, no, we were on a
people.
call.
I was like, look how bad
Matt
he
and I
looks.
were on a call once, and he was like juxtaposing Bitcoin to WorldCoin, and he like shared a picture with the people on the call with us, and I had to like DM him person. I was like, dude, that's Midjourney. That's not Sam.
Dude, it's hard. It's hard out there. We live in a post-truth world. Tom, are we recording right now? Nice.
All right, cool.
You believe so? Are we? Have we been recording?
For a few minutes, bro.
Nice. Should we get this show started?
Well, it sounds like we already started it, so.
Yeah.
What is up, freaks?
What's up?
Yo, let's go.
He looks at me. Freaks.
All right. This is Matt Ninja launched this live show on us. We don't have a list. We don't have anything. We're talking about the news. We're talking about scammers because Ripple, Alex, Thorne. We're sandwiching two Alexes here, Alex Berg and Alex Thorne. And we got Vivek to my right.
We got two Alexes and a Vivek.
Will the Alexes take over the Bens? That's the question.
I don't think there's enough.
Worry
of
about
us.
the Peters.
It's a lot of Bens.
No.
Alex Thorne, we've been talking about this today. What happened with Ripple?
Another Alex also Mashinsky.
Wait. First of all, we're at Bitcoin Park in Nashville. Day one of Lightning Summit's over.
All right.
Well, the day is over, but the night is about to begin.
Yeah, this is the pregame.
Did you guys enjoy yourselves?
I had a good time.
Yeah.
Great
Yeah, it was
time.
awesome.
Sir.
A lot of good content. Was able to record a podcast downstairs next door. You guys are doing something incredible here. It's a lot of fun. Vibes high. Is this your first time here?
First time?
Yeah. Thorne?
No, I was here for the mining summit a couple months ago. Also, very high signal. Excellent.
And Vivek's moving here.
I think the most bullish thing out of this, right now is the quality of Bitcoin gear that's going through the roof. Those mutiny shirts are
Oh, yeah.
like up there with the greatest Bitcoin gear I've seen. This is just me shilling so I can get one.
Life was better. Life was better before the smoking ban, and the
Ben,
Mutiny
these
team
were made
understands
by Lightning Store. Yeah.
And the signal here, I saw you tweet out earlier. There's a bunch of people in spaces talking about how Bitcoin is broken.
Yeah. We had a bit of a sideshow happening on Twitter Space between the wizards. And it was a bit of a collection of malcontents, literally discussing Bitcoin development being stalled. What was it? Broken. So I guess all of you guys here, the hundreds of people, can vouch to that. You guys can just pack up. We're done here. We're just gonna go get drunk on the rooftop, and that's the end of the story.
Was it the clown wizards or the wizards we think of as like SIPA? Like,
Have you ever seen
clown
Sipa
wizards,
on Spaces?
oh, okay.
What do we think of the Clown Wizards? I haven't been paying attention to them. Are they just antagonists? Do they have any good points?
I haven't heard one, and I find it extremely funny that Udi is out there lashing out at Bitcoiners, calling them podcasters, but he's turned into a spacer.
That's fair. I mean, you often become the thing you criticize, I think, in life. I don't know. I think it mixes it up. I mean, I think it's kind of interesting. I don't like own trade ordinals or anything, but like I think it created an interesting conversation, and that's what it's all about, dude. I mean, you know, whether it'll stick around and have legs in any way that is long-term interesting, I don't know, but like it's good for miners.
Well, it'd be one thing. Like, I don't mind the ordinals myself, really. That's a side show that I've never really cared to follow, but they're really trying to define a different narrative here, paint something where like kind of like getting all the affinity scammers together and trying to really like Udi has been talking about that, where he's trying to do Bitcoin 2.0 with like the new lead devs are going to be the Stacks guy, and I think we've got a new implementation coming from Paul at Drive Chains. So,
And did Paul take SV money?
Yeah. They have Layer 2 Labs or whatever now.
And they took Calvin Air money, right?
Oh, sorry. I thought you meant like VC money. I don't know specifics about.
Yeah, I didn't
is it Air or Roger
Silicon
Ver?
Valley is also no. He had there was like this weird tweet that went out from Layer 2 Labs like 2 days ago or whatever. It was like the greatest innovations.
They were trolling. Apparently, they were trolling. Their marketing guy is still learning the ropes.
It's too close to reality. That one really. I just assumed. I assumed they took the money.
Well, they took someone's money, but they their investor was so confident in them that they never went public about it. Huge vouch of confidence here.
So, News of the day. This is a Bitcoin podcast, but I think we have to touch on the shitcoin stuff. Alex Thorne and I have been talking about it all day. Not all day, but
resident
on and off
shitcoin analyst.
Yeah, well, I think you do have unique perspective on what's going on with the Ripple case.
Yeah.
So is XRP the standard now?
Yeah. Oh no. So right, the SEC sued Ripple. Like it was like Jay Clayton's like exit move, right? Remember, it was like I think December 2020. We were euphoric on Clubhouse. I remember. For offering unregistered securities, namely XRP, right, which was mostly sold by Ripple Labs to the public sometimes through intermediaries, right, programmatically, right. They have a schedule every quarter. I don't know what their finances look like, but I assume that accounted for the vast majority of Ripple's revenue over the years, right, just selling XRP tokens. So both sides had like these dueling summary judgment motions, and the judge today ruled on them. Like all cases, for the most part, it's like annoyingly nuanced, but the headline is that the judge said that XRP tokens themselves are not securities, that there were some sales that Ripple did to institutional investors, that those sales, the offering, not the token, but the offering, those were securities and they weren't registered. So that the trial will go forth on that. Ripple is in jeopardy with some fairly large amount of money theoretically at stake. Like we sold hundreds of millions in that way. So it could have a bad outcome for Ripple Labs specifically still. But on the other side, basically said that like if you programmatically sell them, then they're not securities when they trade on the secondary markets. Coinbase immediately relisted XRP.
Did they?
Like an hour after it came out.
Huge. They had it ready.
So,
they had the button ready.
yeah.
A huge win for Coinbase, though, right?
And like while we're here talking Lightning all day, like the crypto altcoin complex absolutely mooned all day today. Like, I mean, Bitcoin also hit like a yearly high.
What are we at?
We were at like 31.75 maybe is what we got to. I think it's like 31.3 right now. So
is that a yearly high?
I think 31.5 or so was the high before. So I think we it's right about where it went to. But I think this particularly all the other tokens the SEC has mentioned in their various lawsuits, like Solana and whatever else, Matic, that they might be securities. All of them were just like up like 15 to 20% today on this news. I don't know, and it's pretty early and it's complex. Like I said, these rulings you can like win while kind of losing, which appears to be kind of what happened to Ripple here. Or you can like win and not win the correct way. Like, I don't know how applicable the ruling here is going to be for other cases, right? Like other cases, it's going to be a case by case basis, but it is a loss for the SEC so far.
So could be a Pyrrhic victory for both sides here.
Is there room for them for the SEC to appeal the decision?
Oh yeah, absolutely. They probably will appeal. This is just one district court. Like it doesn't have jurisdiction over, say, the Coinbase lawsuit or these other ones in other jurisdictions, right? So the appeal goes to the Second Circuit. Like if they overturn the ruling but again, it's like, this isn't the actual case. This is a narrow summary judgment thing. So like there's also, it's just like, it's complicated, but yes, there can be an appeal. Almost certainly
really
will be.
Care?
No. I just think it's interesting.
I really do not give a shit. Am I being offensive?
No.
Like, Alex, thank you for your
you're welcome.
thoughtful breakdown.
Anytime. Thank you.
Can we talk about something else?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's talk about this week, Lightning. What do what'd you guys like I mean, if you got here Tuesday, we have Bit Devs. We had the open house last night. All the panels and discussions today. Like, what'd you guys get out of this? Is Lightning dead?
I mean, I think Evan's announcement is massive. The Zeus announcement that, Zeus has for the longest time been pretty much the only place in town to easily interact with your node at home. But the friction point was that you needed a remote node in the first place. So this idea that you can just launch Zeus and it gives you two prompts and it's like connect to an existing node or create a new wallet. And that if you press create a new wallet, you don't need a remote node. You don't need to deal with channel management. I mean, I think that is fucking huge.
Yeah. As a longtime Zeus user connected to my own node, I think I'm going to keep it connected just because of the connection I have with my node.
You got a good thing going. But the nice thing is that you can seamlessly switch between the onboard embedded node and any of your remote connections.
That wasn't on the microphone, but he said the cool thing is you can seamlessly switch between your onboard embedded node and the remote connection.
Zeus also, with the excellent payment flow at PubKey NYC that I've used, recommend that.
Yeah, I'm gonna shill Mutiny again, and I think specifically what's promising to me, and it's just something that I'm seeing across the board, is the ability for great teams to be able to monetize wallet products. This is something that has been an issue throughout Bitcoin's history for wallet creators, but there are now clear technological pathways towards those teams turning into, sometimes I hate to say the word, but turning into literally like financial providers in terms of creating contextual cooperative use cases where other people are doing that with probably Miniscript and social recovery stuff. The guys at Wizard Sardine. I know this is not Lightning specific, but generally to have great teams with solid pathway towards monetization creates an extremely bullish environment, I think, for wallet creators, and is going to just increase and bring innovation in that regard to a whole new level.
Yeah, I mean, particularly without just slapping a KYC exchange integration on and taking 1%.
Credit card purchases.
Like actual SATS flow.
Yeah, absolute subscription model. That's extremely interesting.
How's it been today, boys?
1,000 channels.
1,000 channels.
Wow.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Mempools are never going to clear again.
I don't know, dude. They might clear in the next few weeks. I'm going to win that bet.
Mutiny's is going to keep pumping channels out.
Splicing, Matt. Watch out.
Oh, yeah. The Phoenix news was huge.
Yeah, I think that was the biggest, to me, unfortunately, for people here, the biggest announcement this week. And it sucks that they're not here, but the guys at Phoenix releasing this new generation of Bitcoin wallet with splicing baked in. There's no more excuses, people, for wallet of Satoshi. Really, we got to start steering people in the right direction. And I'm glad that the guys at Phoenix, who have always kind of pushed the needle in that regard, are making that happen. And hopefully all of you guys follow suit.
Well, they sort of just front run everybody, right? Everybody's expecting Core Lightning to be the first, and then they were just oh, we got it. And so,
well, Dusty technically had the first splice, and that's what he's very proud of. He has the transaction, he could point to the script, but Phoenix actually shipped it as a product, and I think that plays a big part of seeing usage in the network. Yeah.
So. And so, obviously, we talked about it here this week, but this will be broadcast out to everybody via the podcasting networks and YouTube. So for anybody at home who doesn't understand the gravity of adding splicing to Phoenix and async, what's that going to do for Lightning wallets moving forward?
And technically, I believe Phoenix is also the first to have async payments, not from a spec perspective that they're trying to do in the bolts, that LDK is working on, the async receive and async sends, but I believe Phoenix already had it, and async is basically where the node is waking up the phone, the wallet or the app or whatever, telling it that it needs to send or receive a payment, and then completing the flow. And that's because you don't want to tie up all the liquidity along an actual Lightning route. Otherwise, just the opportunity cost of capital for all those nodes along the route, they're not being fairly compensated. Let's say if I had an escrow service with Evan and we just escrow money for a month, and Evan doesn't get to make any nice LSP money with Zeus.
Yeah, I think it has as much of an impact on operators that it does on users. Obviously, from the user perspective, makes for just much smoother onboarding. You don't have to explain why they got rugged of so many sats the moment that they funded the wallet. But also for operators, I think that's where the biggest game changer is, because it just makes it, I think, a lot easier for them not to accidentally go bankrupt trying to manage all that liquidity, which is going to be one of the biggest, I feel, research field. Someone I think yesterday or the other day where I was asking if how I was going on the LSP side in terms of like profitability, and I don't remember that anyone had any clear answer, which was kind of like a little concerning. But I think like more technology like that is just going to make it much more actionable to squeeze out the sats and make sure that they can operate a profitable business doing that.
It's a little interesting because they said LSP and they like to use a lot of analogies like ISPs and providing bandwidth. But if you reflect on like the 90s and 2000s, there was a lot of consolidation in ISPs. It wasn't a happy thing to be an ISP in the end, unless you were like Verizon, I guess.
The final winner.
Yeah.
So what do you think? Do you think Phoenix's move sort of lights the fire under the ass of Core Lightning and LDK to get this implemented?
They were going to do it anyway. I think now it just looks like they need to get it polished very nice and like presentable, like in the Phoenix wallet. I think CLN still, like they might have it on their node, but it's going to be difficult for users until like, let's say an app comes out that uses it, like let's say it's clams with runes or whatever. And then on the LDK side, once they come out with the splices, I'm sure the media guys will eat it up and we'll have like some other application that uses it. But because both those are impulse, we're going to have to wait. That's the beauty of async or async. Because they're Phoenix, it's like one verticalized thing. They could quickly ship their implementation and the app and like all the libraries.
They've always been a special beast in the Lightning space because they're just extremely user focused, specifically on mobile, specifically on Phoenix Wallet.
Yeah, and I think it still sounds like still a small-ish team to this day. So like they really like, doesn't sound like there's a lot of overhead. They just execute.
And LND is not prioritizing splicing.
Well, I wouldn't say that they're not prioritizing. I believe there's a guy named Eugene who's like contributing or working towards it with Dusty. And then on the LDK side, I believe it's Jeff and also Duncan, yeah. And then, so yeah, like people are like dedicating resources to it, but are we going to see it in the way that we want with like a nice final packaged app? It's probably like a year. 2 weeks, the library's out.
So what do we think about the overall broader like landscape of Lightning? Like what part of the maturation process are we at in your mind? Alex Berg.
That's a good one. I mean, I think it's come such a long way, and it makes a material improvement on. It's been a material improvement for users, but again, I think my attention now is, as I was saying, switching to like operators and how they're able to run those kinds of things at scale. Especially we've seen them bump into a lot of issues during the ordinal fee event, and there are like you pointed out, Vivek, also, like it's going to be interesting to see how that dynamic evolves, where you have also a lot of very well-funded companies coming into this game that potentially are able to operate much more efficiently in terms of managing all of the liquidity. And does that squeeze out the smaller players where you've got consolidation happening? It seems like we've been trending towards like a hub and spoke model for a long while, which works to a certain extent. But if it becomes, it becomes a little concerning, especially with the status, I think, of like a lot of the operators being unfortunately exposed to a U.S. regulatory environment. I was not even like I was overhearing earlier conversation about like money transmitting licenses and all of that. I was never exposed to those kinds of conversations with regards to Lightning operations. So it seems like there's going to be some roadblocks ahead in that regard, and hopefully the larger entities don't get to actually also benefit from like regulatory buddies.
No, but the MTL FUD, and not all FUD is necessarily misplaced FUD. I mean, FUD means fear, uncertainty, and doubt. That's been a shitcoiner talking point and like Bcasher talking point since like the dawn of Lightning. I remember we had Consensus 2019 or whatever, where the RHR node was stolen and put behind Tor, was when a lot of the shitcoiners were talking about the MTLs. So.
I mean, I think Coin Center wrote a blog about this literally like 4 years ago, saying that it's not a money transmitter, right? So yeah, I mean that's been around forever. I think, but the concept behind money transmission laws is like typical, like a Western Union, right? You're literally handing money to someone, and then you're trusting them in the interim, and eventually they're delivering it. And so the regulations are specifically there because the intermediary can rug you, which is not possible in Lightning.
Well, I mean, look, never deem anything.
So it shouldn't be applicable.
Corrupt regulators can always they always find a way if they need to.
Right? The MTL regime is a state by state.
I will say there's two things, and I use Lightning every day. It's an honor and privilege to hold this Lightning Summit. But I see two troubling things with the Lightning Network currently. The first thing is we see these massive regulated companies that are becoming increasingly influential in Lightning. And a lot of times they have policies where they will not open channels with people they do not have any kind of relationship with, or maybe even they have legal agreements that we don't know about. So you kind of see a bifurcation of the network to a degree in that situation. And then the second thing is, while I'm cautiously optimistic about this idea that Tor might add a proof of work element, I've had a lot of concerns for a long time that it's just not built for an adversarial environment where the U.S. is your adversary. It's built for an environment where everyone's an adversary except the U.S. government. And there's a very strong reliance on Tor in terms of sovereign Lightning usage. And those are like probably the two main things that I'm watching in terms of actually, freedom-oriented Lightning use.
I think we're doing ourselves an injustice by referring to Lightning revenue as yield. I think that invites a lot of this scrutiny, and I try not to ever refer to it in those terms. I know certain people offer services where you could give them sats and then they'll give you a return. I think that's fine to call yield, but then to say like, as a routing node operator, you make yield, will invite a lot of these sorts of conversations that are probably not ideal because the people that will make the rulings on it don't really understand it. So it's just opening up a can of worms we're not ready for quite yet.
Should we use revenue?
Yeah, just revenue,
I mean, it's just value for service, right? It's not like earning yield. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a financial instrument.
Right.
Yeah, like run a gas station, you're not earning yield.
Exactly. It's software that you're operating.
Matt, to your second point there about Tor, something like using like a taproot channel open, does it?
But the problem is like if we talk about a true adversarial environment, and maybe it doesn't happen, but if you talk about a true adversarial environment where Lightning node operators, specifically larger Lightning node operators, are targeted, protecting that IP address about where your node is located becomes a concern. I like half trolling our wonderful participants here outside of the sessions talking about the use of Wallet of Satoshi on Nostr. I say half trolling because Wallet of Satoshi is going to rug a lot of fucking people, whether that's shotgun KYC or loss of funds. But there was one participant here that said, oh, I actually have a self-custody Lightning address, but I use my Wallet of Satoshi Lightning address because I don't want to dox my home node. And that's the core of the issue, right? And if you don't use ClearNet, if you use Tor, you are at a significant disadvantage compared to other routing nodes. in terms of uptime and reliability.
People use proxies and stuff. There's ways around it.
Yeah, but where are you proxying to? You're proxying to AWS
You'll go to
or something,
Mulvad.
right?
You'll go to like what's it called, Proton or someone like. It's not perfect, but there are ways around it. Like if Tor is like latency, and like the censorship resistance part is like a fear. I don't think like we should ever commit to one. Like I think we should kind of have like a bunch. Although, like, someone was recently telling me I2P is a shitcoin. Like, there's some vulnerabilities or something. I don't know if it was like that floppy disk guy.
I just feel like I don't have the technical chops to evaluate I2P, but I just feel like it's been hyped for a decade, and I've just never really seen any adoption.
Well, like I said, like the more networks, the better. If like we use a proxy and we have Tor, and then we have a clear node and like a library in a city we don't go to often, or like, you know, we can figure it out. Like there's ways around just making Tor be like the end all.
And it's not the end of the world if certain jurisdictions have like a ridiculous adversarial environment on Lightning. You can just move to on-chain and pay your fee.
Or you could buy a SATS card and do it off-chain. We're layer 2 also.
Good shill. Good shill. So, all that aside, let's run with the assumption that like this is going to get adopted. We had the conversation on the AI panel a couple hours ago that a lot of people think B2B is going to be the adoption path for Lightning because not enough individuals have Bitcoin yet. How do you guys see like the network evolving from an adoption perspective? Do you agree with that assumption that it'll be B2B initially?
I have a weird opinion on this. I tend to heavily skew and bias towards gaming. I want to see Zebedee extremely successful. I want to see Thunder Games extremely successful. I see that demographic as perfect because they're not programmed to what a savings or checkings account is. They don't really care about Bitcoin either. They'll get their Taco Bell and Xbox Live gift card happily through Bitcoin as like an entrance to it. And getting paid for it versus paying for it, I think is very powerful for the onboarding. B2B, to your question, concerns me significantly because you're going to have to make sure you don't have revenue concentration, and also the people that you're working with make it through this, I don't know, for lack of a better word, like bear market, not only in Bitcoin, but like the macro headwinds and everything, you know, like it's scary to me to have like B2B clients that you don't know if they'll be around like in a year or two. And then after that, you have to like renege the contracts, and after you have to like sell at a discount, you know, it's just like everyone's a little hurting right now.
But I mean, to the gaming side, I would add Nostr to that bucket.
Definitely.
Because you're not buying Bitcoin. You're interacting with their social media addiction that you already have anyway, and some stranger is sending you sats. It's a very easy entry point for a lot of people, and we've already seen on Nostr, they passed 1 million Bitcoin transactions, and it's still relatively in its infancy. On the B2B side, I think Lightning has already proven product market fit. I think Lightning is actually used the way Liquid was proposed to be used. And you see exchanges like Binance come in and they decide that they're going to think about Lightning. And,
allegedly.
Yeah, but still, like, those channels were, 1 Bitcoin, 5 Bitcoin channels between them and Kraken or them and Bitfinex, right? And that's a very easy... I think Lightning has proven itself as that medium between two exchanges trying to trade with each other. They don't need to trust a federation. They create a 2 of 2 multisig between the two of them, and they have this channel, and they have some kind of business relationship as well. So it's not even like they're just trusting on-chain settlement guarantees.
What if they trade with each other a lot too? The channels balancing is going to be better.
Self-balance.
In fact, we looked. That's when we were doing a Lightning project. Looking at Evan here too. Remember, we met and worked on this briefly as this exact use case like 2 years ago of could Galaxy and Kraken settle over Lightning. We did on testnet basically, Because I always thought that also at the time too, the obviously the tools were much less mature than they are for channel management and whatnot too. So we were like, the bi-directional payment problem is pretty solved if we have bi-directional flow on an ongoing basis.
It's a little bit interesting because it's the same protocol. It's the same Lightning protocol, but really it almost should be considered two different products. Like I almost feel like it's like sovereign Lightning, end user Lightning is almost a completely different product in terms of product market fit than two regulated entities with a business relationship exchanging funds with each other, even though they're using the same protocol.
Yeah, I mean, something interesting is that it just allows liquidity to flow between those places extremely quickly. And I remember having a short conversation with Nicholas of Blink, and I was discussing their stable sets implementation. I think they were thinking about, which hasn't been implemented, I believe, yet, but is the ability to sort of like dynamically manage the amount of reserve you have if you're operating a stable sats, so like synthetic USD, and deciding from one moment to another how much like leverage you're trying to use. But if in the event of a price action, in the event of a severe price action, one way or another, using Lightning, you're able to much more quickly be able to add reserves to your account, which I thought was super interesting.
Yeah, and then in terms of adoption, I mean, since this is a weekly news topical show, I think we should mention Lightning Labs releasing. I mean, L402 has been out there for a while, but Aperture and Lang chain implementation, like that's something I've been thinking a lot about. This, like, what if the machines adopt Lightning in mass before the humans do? Like,
it's rebranded LSATs, right?
Yeah. So I talked to Ryan today. Apparently, they got a cease and desist from the wall test.
LSATs.
Yeah, the LSATs.
I will say, as a domain hoarder,
So they lost Taro and LSATs. This is just mean. Stop picking on LND.
As a domain hoarder, when SATs started to become obvious that SATs were the standard, it made it really difficult that the SATs existed because all those domains are already taken.
Yeah, but what do we think about machines adopting Lightning?
I love machine-to-machine payments as a concept here. I think Lightning could be great for that. I think AI could absolutely operate a Lightning node pretty well. I think the amount of research you can do to map the topography of the network using machine learning tools could be a really big thing to do. And I also it's not just AI, but if you think about a future with Waymo cars or automated vehicles and stuff, sure, I mean, they're going to probably be using Stripe or something for a while, but a direct, quick micropayment seems like a very, very clear need for an automated.
Yeah. Oops. But Paul brought this up in the panel. I never thought of this. For an AI company that doesn't want others to know that they're building their models, being able to pay privately over the Lightning network is a big value add. So there may be a forced incentive for them to adopt it.
I just want to say, fuck Waymo. I'm going to continue to drive myself.
Are you going to put those? Well, me too. But are you going to? You see, they put the cones.
No
on
chip, no pod, no bugs, no check. Drive my own vehicle.
No Waymo.
Do you even have a horse, Matt?
If you don't have a horse, are you even a Bitcoiner?
So the thing with the machine to machine, the big question mark for me for that type of use case is actually if Lightning can actually handle that in a cheap way, because we know that down the line Lightning fees at the end of the day are going to be a function of the on-chain fees, and as they continue to hopefully continue to rise, the amount of volume that we're potentially talking about in terms of machine to machine and API call payments, it's not clear to me that it becomes economical at one point to have those directly. So there might be and I haven't looked at that in a while, so there might be ways to implement that in to make it much more efficient and perhaps restrict the amount of counterparties that are involved. So maybe perhaps it's not global, doesn't have to go through as big as a route, but it's going to be interesting to see just generally how Lightning fees evolve along with Bitcoin fees, perhaps during a next cycle or something.
Alex, I'm interested in your opinion. Marty's on the record saying mempools will always clear at some point. Do you believe that'll be the case?
Always? No.
Yeah, eventually at some point they will always clear.
Always, eventually.
I think, I mean, I wouldn't want that to happen. Like there's, in the event, like in the context of like a hyper Bitcoinized world where we are actually relying 100% on fees for the security budget, which is a term I'm not a big fan of, but we'll leave it at that. When you start emptying, when the mempool starts getting empty, then you invite like the sniping attacks and potential risk in terms of like reorgs, because you need this constant flow of transactions in the main pool, in the mempool, to incentivize miners obviously to continue progressing the chain. But if one blocks get 5 BTC of rewards and the next one gets half a BTC, that could turn into incentive issues. So I'm really hoping. Honestly, I think there comes a point where no, it literally never clears and it starts actually just consolidating, and the fee amounts. I think you're gonna have more uniformity also in the mempool in terms of like the fee amount per transactions. So looking forward to see how this plays out, though.
I agree with you.
So I love you.
No, I mean, I think SegWit proved this too. Like, I think we hit these natural limits of what we can do on chain, and then the development community gets creative. We solve that fee pressure, dies down, and then demand grows on top of that, hit the limit again. That's my theory. Always eventually.
It's all a psyop, Matt. You know, these aren't real transactions. This is Jihan waiting for some new Bitcoin fork to propose.
I mean, I will say that like this whole fee event, although, you know, I'm not willing to concede the idea that ordinals sort of kickstart this sort of building momentum across the Bitcoin ecosystem. It's certainly the case that I think the fee event that resulted from that certainly, I think, brought a lot of people within the Bitcoin community. So like back to the drawing boards, double checking their assumptions about like what systems they were building. And I think that was hugely beneficial. And we also got like, it kind of lit a fire in terms of like, okay, well, you know, perhaps I've been sort of like having this talk here this week, which is funny because it's, you know, a lightning focus summit. But I think it also sort of like incentivized people to look beyond Lightning and be like, okay, like maybe we need to add tools to our toolkit, because there are questions, or like there are use cases, there are things that Lightning alone cannot address by itself.
I mean, you mentioned ordinals. I just wanted to say, like, unequivocally, the Stacks guys are disingenuous scammers. And I have a feeling it's going to be a problem this next cycle. It's just a lot of people are going to lose a lot of money, and they are so intertwined with the ordinals movement right now that if there was like any good faith aspect of inscriptions and ordinals, there's no shot in my mind anymore. I feel like everyone in that space now is just completely complicit with the Stacks scam, which is a forever ICO that registered as a security with the SEC and has a massive fucking pre-mine. And they will just constantly say this next cycle that they are Bitcoin, that they're building on Bitcoin. They call their conferences like building on Bitcoin conferences. They name their, their staking ICO forever model mining. So that when you call out Munib on it, Munib says, "Oh, what, you have a problem with mining?" It's like, you just made that fucking up. But he'll just gaslight you to the end of the fucking day. And I think it's going to become a bigger issue this next cycle. And then it'll be a flash in the pan. The thing will fucking blow the fuck up, and a lot of people will be hurt. But I'm already that it's so tiresome meme about that ahead of time, preemptively exhausted.
It's been tiresome since January 2020. They said they have 1 million users.
I remember.
Well, that dives into a good question. Like, who's going to get rugged harder, Wall Street or people that get into the Stacks?
Maybe it's the same.
Well, I mean, that's the big meme on Wall Street. If you're looking at like institutional investors, they're really, or not even institutional investors, just like Wall Street investment banks are like, tokenization is the future, and they're looking to tokenize everything.
Well, that's where it gets interesting, where I think you guys, you and Matt have like, and maybe even Alex have like a closer window into this, like seeing how LPs react over time. You know, like there are like headwinds and then they get really interested in something and they see all their peers get fucking burned and lose a shit ton of money. And then they don't want to like touch that category at all. They're like, all right, screw alternative investments. I'm going to like oil and gas or something. You know?
I mean, that absolutely happened, right? Like there was most of the spectacular blowups were big venture-backed companies, right? Like the one that always gets mentioned here is the Canadian Pension Fund. I forget, the Ontario Teachers or something like that, right?
They were in FTX.
Quebec.
Yeah, they were also in, I think, Celsius. So, I mean, yeah. And then obviously the rate environment makes like venture much less attractive overall. I mean, I think everyone is seeing, you see that across the board in VC. I'm sure everyone does venture.
You've been tracking that pretty.
Yeah. And it's down bad. Like it's, I think, so, I mean, I agree. I think that's going to be continue to be a problem.
I think something that's working for us actually in sort of like an indirect way is the AI hype. Where a lot of venture money is actually going there. Like,
oh, absolutely.
I don't want I don't want to bring up the guy, but Eric Wall actually was calling out shitcoiners on Twitter the other day, saying like a lot of you guys are just sad that like DeFi and shitcoining is not the cool hot thing anymore. It's AI, and it's going to be curious to what extent like if the AI trend persists. How much like what the VCs are going to do in terms of allocation of capital. It could be the case that there's a lot less allocated in whatever the next Ponzi is.
But you have to remember that probably the most prominent figure in AI, Sam Altman, also has a VC-backed cryptocurrency that scans the eyeballs of poor people around the world.
Yeah, we were talking of scammer earlier. This guy is like climbing the ranks pretty quickly, I think. Huh?
Yeah, it's like
AI is too dangerous and needs to be open source for everyone.
This is what
Fast
he's
forward,
saying too.
AI is so dangerous, needs to be limited to a few.
He's like an evil genius, right? Because he's like the idea behind the WorldCoin is he calls like proof of personhood. Yeah. Right, which is like the opposite of the AI problem. Like he's playing both sides.
He built the AI problem and then had his pre-mined
problem reaction solution, right?
Eye scanning, shitcoin.
I'll
ready.
take the contrarian view here. It seems like it's falling apart because people are just selling their irises to other people, and they're like, we don't know how to fix this problem. Like, wow.
Well, they're just. Yeah, I mean, when I first talked about that on RHR, I was a little bit incorrect. They are scanning their eyeballs, receiving their WorldCoin credentials, and then selling the credentials. They're not actually selling the eyeball scans. I mean, if that nuance really fucking matters.
You're killing someone's eyeball pimp.
They're gaming this.
It's like that Minority Report, right?
By credentials, you mean like their identity.
The wallet.
The whole idea is you scan the eyeballs and you get a WorldCoin private key. Right. That is your proof of personhood. But people in poor areas are selling it to people that want to, to fake that for pennies on the dollar. They're selling it relatively cheap because they just need money to feed themselves. I will say that we have a great group of self-declared accelerationists who who drove in from Canada here at the Lightning Summit, and the ideal accelerationist timeline is that the blue checks are going to have to scan their eyeballs in order to keep their blue check. That would be chef's kiss.
Well, if you go into the history of OpenAI, Elon does not like Sam Altman because he corrupted what was supposed to be an open source system. So, joke's on you.
I do think. Another factor that's going to, I think, hopefully inhibit the like VC crypto pre-mine scheme is Ripple ruling, because that's basically the specific thing that Ripple actually lost on is pre-selling tokens to institutional investors, which is what they started doing with those SAFT agreements after the ICO was declared illegal, right? So like they'll probably find another new way.
But part of the reason why this doesn't really matter is because, first of all, Ripple is, a massive cog in the wheel of this like corrupt regulatory regime. I mean, they had Bill Clinton at their conference. Ben Lawsky came up with
FTX.
Oh, they had Bill, the Ripple Wave. I remember that
first before.
And Ben
FTX.
Lawsky worked there. I think he scrubbed it from his profile on LinkedIn.
I think he was on the board
Seriously.
of Ripple at one point after he came out with the Bit license. Now he's on the board of NYDIG. And so, but the point is like, first of all, I personally believe the SEC can go fuck themselves regardless. And then second of all, does this really matter when you have a scam like Stacks, which just went through the corrupt process to pre-register dumping on retail and is operating with impunity anyway? And I think in this next cycle will be, you know, an equivalent to a Cardano or a Solana or a Ripple in maybe previous cycles.
I would just want to say also that let us not underestimate the ability for Bitcoin to capture the sort of like technological mind share in this next cycle.
That's exactly what I was just about to say, because it feels like everything's reaching a point of maturation, and something like L402, if that catches on in AI, and you have a bunch, I imagine the new crypto scams will be like tokenized AI projects. And it's like, no, we don't actually need it. You have the standard in 402 that allows you to implement
tokenized AI products. Oh my God. That's like,
but no, you already had Raoul Paul out.
Can we erase that? Let's not give them ideas.
I saw his thing. Yeah, no, I'm just saying like, damn.
No, but Alex, I agree with you. I think, and we've had this debate many times over the last few months, like, or last few years. I'm like, I don't know if the next cycle of shitcoin is going to be as profound as the last.
I mean, to be clear here, the Stacks people would tell you that they're building out Bitcoin, and I think that is a deliberate attempt in this.
I'm not really worried about the Stacks.
They're working backwards. You know, they're building DeFi, which is so 2021. I don't feel like this. You know, it's been like the thesis that DeFi is kind of broken has been sort of validated throughout this bear market. I think there's a lot less appetite for that. And so the idea that like they're going to push through, they're going to have to come up with something else, because they're just like, they're not building anything much different than other than the affinity scam of Bitcoin.
Well, to go full circle, I talked to Hodl about like what's going to be the next big scam, and it's going to be identity. And it goes back to WorldCoin and like the Iris scam. Like it goes back to, Blue checks, yeah, blue checks too. Goes back to that identity standard from CSU Wildcat. Blanking out on what it is. DIDs, yeah. Then Carvalho has his slash tags and
CivKit.
Yeah, CivKit as well. So there's a lot of contenders, and I think the identity people will show up and then they'll just put a coin on it and retail will eat it up. Like I'm pretty sure retail will still be buying BitTorrent tokens.
This will be like what was it, like Civic, Vinny Lingham?
Yeah.
Like one of those.
Very familiar with that guy.
It's like KYC for vending machines, pre-mine tokens.
Is what it was, right?
Yeah, put your name on the blockchain so you can buy a Coke.
Yeah.
But I mean, Vitalik's been broadcasting that idea, I think, for the last couple of years, right? Which is
soul tokens or whatever.
Is it soul tokens? Yeah, I have no idea what this.
Yeah,
what it does.
soulbound tokens.
So, yes, that's so fucking dark.
Yeah, and I think you can actually send them to people, so you can like dox people with them, and they can never send them out of their wallet. That's how those work. They're immovable tokens.
What about that
Arkham?
Yeah, like Sam Altman's backing that too.
Is he?
Yeah.
Is it really?
You're talking about the doxing marketplace?
Yeah, you get paid shitcoins to dox people?
Yeah, Unchained.
Founders Fund, I think, as well. Allegedly.
Peter Thiel confuses the hell out of me. He's like, if you want to talk about somebody who takes super positions, it's him. He's like, I'm going to build Palantir and the CBDC infrastructure. And then, no, like Bitcoin's freedom money. I like that too. It's like,
we need freedom. We need anarchy. So I'm going to build nuclear weapons and a surveillance apparatus to get it for us. Yeah. It's pretty dark, like what Palantir knows and everything, and then if they somehow integrate it to that, it's called Arkham, right?
Yeah.
So that there was literally an AI rug right this week where like they trying to literally monetize doxing on chain.
These are the guys that also, if you remember, there was like there was actual FUD about government Bitcoins moving a couple months ago, and it was just their platform sending out an alert erroneously about like Gox coins moving or something, and they didn't. Not Gox,
something like 300,000 coins.
Yeah, that didn't happen, and that's that same company. So I mean, it's not like a great track record. Also, I think their actual tagline is de-anonymizing the blockchain.
Yeah.
And what's
That's kinda
puzzling?
redundant, though, right?
What's puzzling is that they're a Texas-based company as well, and there's a token
There's
also
gonna be a token
involved
that they did on Binance Launchpad.
So it's going to start being very sort of like curious if they're not like in the crosshair of regulators.
I would say there's
maybe they're
there's
already
some
in
red
bed
flags
with
there.
their
There's some red
exactly.
flags. The other thing that I saw from them was I was going to say, like, this is, on the other hand, this is like accelerationism, right? Because the blockchain is not anonymous, right? Certainly, particularly Ethereum, which is like a privacy nightmare. And so, like, they're just going to, carry this forth to the logical conclusion and, like, dox everyone? Is that... They're probably going to collapse before they do that much of a success, I think, most likely. But
I honestly haven't dove into the Arkham stuff. I've seen a few tweets about
also, isn't Arkham the insane asylum from Batman?
Yeah.
Some
Good
weird,
reference.
some weird stuff going on, man.
I mean, this conversation has been great, guys. Should we move to Q&A?
I'm down.
Yep.
Tom, you have a mic over there. If you raise your hand, Tom, our wonderful producer here at the park, will bring you a mic.
Are the questions part of the recording or not?
Yes, the questions are part of the recording because this is an
going like that.
Hey, Marty. Peter McCormack told Biology that his podcast with you was the greatest podcast he'd listened to. Biology suffered a lot of hate from the community, years ago, had to defend himself. Is Biology a Bitcoiner?
Yeah, I think he's definitely a Bitcoiner. Whether or not he's a maximalist is another question. Like we were saying, I talked about it on the panel earlier. I mean, love him or hate him. For me personally, like 21 Co. and the idea of the machine payable web was something back in 2015 that got me really excited. It was an idea. It was probably too early for its time.
Fell for that one.
Marty,
also.
how much did you pay for that paperweight?
$400.
I think
I believe it was 1 Bitcoin.
No, it was $400. I went back and looked.
And what was the price of Bitcoin?
I don't know. You didn't have to pay in Bitcoin. You could pay
Okay.
with a debit card.
Noted.
It was probably around $400 at that point. But yeah, no, he's definitely a Bitcoiner. He gets it. I don't want to speak on behalf of him, but it seems like with the banking crisis and the debt crisis that's been ongoing, it's really sort of become more pronounced in his mind. Like, oh shit, the Bitcoin maximalists have it right. And again, I can't speak for him, but it seems like he's having I don't want to say come to Jesus moment, but he's like really recognizing that Bitcoin and Bitcoiners really focus on a lot of the things we've talked about on this panel in terms of distribution of nodes, distribution of hash rate, like making sure things are robust against state attacks very seriously. People have laughed at us for years for taking this position, but I think people are beginning to realize that it's for very important reasons that people approach Bitcoin in this way.
What was the community that they started? Like Bitcoin focused or
Satoshi.
Yeah, pro Bitcoin. There we go.
No, it's
Thank
pro
you.
BTC.
Yeah.
Can I just, first of all, it's incredibly impressive that you didn't pee during that whole interview. I don't know why, and this is just, it's mostly bullshit, but when he doesn't ever call it Bitcoin, he just constantly calls it BTC, and it just triggers the fuck out of me. I don't know what it is. It's just weird. That to me is just odd.
It sounds like a filthy ticker, like
Well,
some
it's
sort
like
of security.
BCH, BTC. I don't know. It's just it's like yeah.
Yeah, he's. To be somewhat fair to him, I think it even goes back to the last cycle where, if I remember correctly, I was listening at one point to a podcast that he was on with the 3AC guys, and he was actually making a whole lot of sense. And I think during that period, was trying to get, although I'm sure he was still involved in all kinds of scammy shit, was making a very, very cogent case for Bitcoin as being so vastly different than shitcoins in terms of, like, he was making the case for, like, the Bitcoin, how Bitcoiners were literally willing to die on that flag, and how vastly different that was than anything else that was happening on the state in the space. So I think he gets it also, but he has quite the unfortunate history.
He's like primarily the main guy responsible for Coinbase going from 4 assets to like 300, right? Yeah. I mean, I've seen stuff just on that. I mean, especially when he was still there, like I saw coins. I was like, got an email from Coinbase or whatever in one of my emails wherever I had signed up for Coinbase at some point, and like I was getting notices about coins being listed I'd never heard of, and like that's my job to like know most of those coins.
Like
they literally
student coin.
Truly bonkers.
Coinbase literally listed a coin called shitcoin at one point. I'm pretty positive.
The best part was the emails that they gave you. And I was like, hey, come to our platform, learn about this new coin.
Yeah.
We'll give you some.
Well, and this is
that's
Balaji's thing also.
Balaji's earn.
That's what they bought.
He pivoted 21.co to earn and then plug that into
That is
Coinbase.
a particularly insidious product too, because they're getting those coins from the projects. So the project treasuries were giving Coinbase the supply so that they could drip it out and like create new like holders of these random altcoins. Like that's dirty, right?
Incredibly predatory. And then it does come down to like this concept, like if someone gets it and then still actively scams, is that worse than someone that doesn't get it and almost inadvertently scams, or is it better?
I think it's worse.
Yeah,
I'd have to agree.
Yeah,
but there can be redemption arcs. I think that's possible.
I think
I don't know that he's on one, but I mean that
I think it seems to me
I believe
that
people can change.
Yeah, like the machine. I don't want to say. I talked to him about like the machine payable web, and like now like it makes sense with Lightning, and I think a lot of people got into shitcoinery. I think did so out of impatience. Like again, going back to the machine payable web in 2015, you literally couldn't do microtransactions on chain, particularly in a high fee environment. And if somebody wants that in the market and it's not possible on chain, they go somewhere else thinking it can be produced there. It's really a game of patience where now it's viable, it's possible. And maybe people realize that like, oh shit, I should have been patient and come back.
But I think from that I think one of the for me one of the requirement probably for an actual redemption act from anyone would be to put their money where their mouth is, and not just like talk about it on podcasts. So if Balaji, rather than trolling about $1 million contests on Twitter, would start sending $1 million to Bitcoin open source development, then I might start giving him a chance.
Cheers to that. Next question. No more questions.
All right, show's over. See you guys later.
Wow.
Everyone's waiting for the rooftop.
We got Paul. Tom's bringing you a mic.
What's worse, KYC with WorldCoin or with Twitter?
WorldCoin by far. They scan your iris.
Yeah, I don't like the iris scan. You know, they argue, have you read on their website, they argue very vociferously that they only store the hash. Now, I don't think that really matters because the hash basically is your iris anyway, if they use the same algo, right?
You can't verify it because the orb is supposed to be tamper resistant. So if you try and inspect the orb, it will stop working. So there's no way, if you look at an orb, if there's an orb there that's scanning your eyeball, there's no way for you to verify what's actually going on.
It's got like a self-destruct if you open it up or something.
No, just wear colored contacts.
But you can't. I hate biometrics for security because you can't change them when they're compromised, right? Like that's my main issue.
And I think, I mean, we might have this conversation if Twitter was going to third world countries trying to sell blue checks to poor people. But I don't think he's gotten that desperate yet. So definitely WorldCoin.
Yeah.
But they could be one and the same at some point.
They absolutely could.
I think Elon and Sam don't like each other to the point where...
I mean, Clear, you know, like at the airport.
Oh, yeah.
Like they hire in New York, there are like 20, 22-year-olds standing around harassing you to scan your eyeballs.
And they're a private company that has like this government-sanctioned monopoly.
They're actually a publicly traded company, which is even weirder to me. But yes, it's not government. It's they're a vendor.
Yeah, that's just classic American... surveillance capitalism.
Well, it's coming everywhere.
like not.
Right. I mean, the Nashville airport, the last time I left here, I'll find out on Saturday if it's still there. I imagine it is. But yeah, I just scan my face to fucking go through security.
Not clear. That was
just
the government straight up getting you.
I guess that's better.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Like,
don't they have that already in some airports where like you can actually check your ticket? Like you can literally
Newark here.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing. It's like they have all this information anyway. At least the government does.
But is that on an airline basis or is that
no,
TSA?
It's pure just getting the TSA.
Isn't that Peters? Like, isn't that all going through Palantir? That stuff, probably,
imagine,
right?
yeah.
But
Yeah.
you noticed that last time you were flying out of Nashville?
Yeah, last month.
Huh.
You dropped me off at the airport.
I did. What a good co-host.
If only you knew what he would encounter.
I haven't. That's fucked up. I haven't noticed that, but I expect it. It should be expected.
Yeah.
You don't really fly out of Nashville anymore, right? We just all come to you.
Everyone's a scammer. Do we have any other questions?
Rod's got him chained down here. Never leaving.
No more questions?
Great panel, guys. Or sorry, not panel, RHR. What was one big takeaway from today, whether it was a panel talk or just an experience from each of you guys?
Disclaimer: we invested in Primal, but I thought Miljan's presentation and the fact that they open sourced everything. I'm really excited to see like that trend in Nostr, particularly of like open sourcing at this stage of that protocol's life cycle, to see what that does for the overall environment, whether or not that accelerates the growth of Nostr as a protocol, as companies like Primal building robust infrastructure, whether it be a client or a caching system, and if that throws fuel on the fire.
I love the AI panel. There was something I'm not going to say, like, it's not really Bitcoin related, but like I've been wondering about when the AIs, the LLMs train themselves and then they all start spitting out the information to us and then we all start using that. No one writes anything anymore. Do they, like, what do they end up training on in the future? Do they train on their own? Like, you know what I mean? Like, do we lose all knowledge over time?
That's like a very well discussed problem.
Yeah, right. I've heard this,
they're just like feeding on GPT-3.
Yeah, and they start like training on each other. And I was like, I don't know the answer to that, but it came to my mind during that panel.
Just turns into the Tower of Babel in the digital
exactly.
world. Yeah.
Also, just like this is my second time at the park, and just like incredibly high signal friends and attendees at these things. It's just great. Awesome.
Yeah, I was just generally happy to hear a lot of, like, generally seeing a lot of the builders here being very conscious of the trade-offs in terms of like all the tough conversation around privacy and things like that. Things that conversations that in different sphere of this very industry, the Bitcoin industry, aren't very much addressed. And I think we've got a fantastic crew of like hackers and pirates here who are very conscious of the choice that they make when designing their products. And that's extremely bullish because there are suits coming for your Bitcoins and for your identity. And we need to keep the ball rolling in every respect as far as that's concerned. And I was just generally very happy to see that I think everyone's aligned, mostly everyone's aligned on that here.
I was stoked to finally get the mini script cold card Mark IV demo from Rob. I've been pushing miniscript in the industry for a while I was at Blockstream towards the end of last year. And then Rob ended up being the perfect guy to kind of get the baton passed from the protocol developers as an app dev to serve something that the market would want. So I'm really excited to see how Anchor Watch's insurance products take off. The demo looked really slick. Reminded me a lot of like what Alicos has made, like with BDK or Bitcoin Magical Wallet back in the day. It was just really cool. And to finally see our cold card do the miniscript stuff, it was interesting. I'm a sales guy. I'm technical, but like I didn't have any miniscript transaction to sign or like anything to audit. So to actually see the full flow that Rob made, it was awesome.
Yeah, bullish on L1. Lots of love for Lightning, but extremely bullish also on L1.
I'm incredibly bullish on L1 and Lightning. I mean, I would just add that at the park, we have a no photo and no video policy, but conversations are recorded audio only. Some of panelists, speakers can choose if they release those, if it gets published or not. But if they do get published, they get published to the Bitcoin Park podcast feed. You can just search Bitcoin Park in your favorite podcast app. To me, the best part about all of these events is just physical, look people in the eyes, shake people's hands, have a conversation over a nice cold beer. At the end of the day, it's super easy to get lost in this idea that Bitcoin and the greater freedom tech movement is a tech project. But it's ultimately a freedom movement of individuals, and it comes down to the individuals to actually push it forward. So yeah, I appreciate you all for being here. Should we go to the rooftop in Broadway, or
let's go to the rooftop at Broadway? Let's give a shout out to Matt and Rod for
great job.
Yeah, no, I mean, I say this at every live show, but it is incredibly special when we get people together in person. Like Alex, this is the second time I've met you. It's like an awesome hanging out. I see you all the time in Austin. Alex Thorne, this is probably fourth or fifth time hanging out, but it's so much more productive. And you do, like, again, we are, I believe, on a virtuous mission to make sure that Bitcoin and freedom tech succeeds. And it's just invigorating getting in person with everybody that's working on this goal.
I like the attitude that you guys have. I've been noticing it here in the park too, where a lot of people feel like Bitcoin's done, like we already won. And I think a lot of us here feel like, no, there's a lot more work to be done.
Yep.
And like we can't ever take that for granted. Love that attitude.
100% agree. And I would just add that in Tennessee, you're allowed to drink on buses, so consider grabbing a roadie from the cooler on the way out.
Amazing.
Very important.
I hope somebody saves some barbecue outside because I'm pretty hungry.
I got 2 ghosts for you guys to do that.
Thank you.
Thank you guys.
Peace and love, freaks.
Cheers. Thank you, guys.